Anomaly. Something that deviates from what is standard, normal, or expected. An oddity, peculiarity, irregularity, inconsistency, incongruity, a rarity.
Hello and welcome to the Anomaly Podcast. I'm Jen.
And I'm Angela.
And this is a special edition of our show. A couple of days ago, we got together with our very, very good friends and talked about Star Trek Discovery, episodes 1 and 2, and the controversy behind the streaming service. Yes.
Service.
We had some issues.
Well, it's funny how that became such a big part of it. But I'm so excited that the guys were so excited to have us.
Yeah, so we were talking with Rick Moyer, Rico Dostie, which this was recorded for his show, but he's being very generous in sharing it with us.
Yes.
And some other very good friends of our show who listened to both. Yeah, Joe from the Star Wars Stacks, Sean from The Rusted Robot, and Amy Moyer, and a couple of listeners to Rico's podcast who I think listened to us too. So, But anyway, it was a good mix, and we all had some very good points, I think, about the two episodes. So,
and at the end of the day, we are very excited to have a new Star Trek. So
we are. Good. We're not the people who are saying they're not watching it because it's not their Star Trek. We're giving it a chance.
We are,
because that's the way we roll.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen episodes 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery, just be aware that there will be some spoilers.
It's pretty much all spoilers.
Sprinkled everywhere, so I can't give you the timestamp of where the spoilers start.
Nope, it's all spoilers from here on. So
stick around at the very end. Angela and I will come back and talk about our next episode, which we recorded in advance of this.
Yes.
Well in advance, but crap happened.
And
we had to pause it because we've got a really cool series coming up for you guys. So we'll talk about that at the end. And also we'll talk about Austin Comic-Con.
Woohoo!
Enjoy. We'll be back soon.
I'm a television junkie, and the real world stumps me. I got a lot of problems. Why don't somebody solve them? Television junkie, and I like what I see.
I was born ready.
I was born ready.
But this afternoon when y'all were talking on chat, I was like, shut up, you guys.
We always save it for the show. We try.
We do.
It is, and it's fun because, or it's sometimes it's hard because you feel like you got to be spontaneous a little bit or whatever. But,
a little.
I think I ask everyone's seen both episodes, so we can talk about both, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I did. Good. We're here to talk about Star Trek Discovery. Obviously, big spoiler warning. For those in the universe that have not seen the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, we're going to talk about those.
If you listen to this podcast, you've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, you've at least seen the first one probably because that was on broadcast television. 1992.
Can we talk about that first?
We will, I'm sure.
I'm not buying that streaming crap.
But we're going to talk about both episodes, and just a quick rundown. We have Joe, we have Rick Moyer, we have Angela, we have Will, we have Jen, we have Rick, Pete, and Sean from the Rusted Robot podcast, and people who do Star Wars Stacks and Anomaly podcasts and all kinds of other things.
And Amy Moyer.
So Angela, I'm good with that. Even though as I think I posted somewhere along the way over the weekend, I do hope that maybe in the next week, I'll give it still a little time to die down. But I totally understand, people feel like this is quote unquote CBS and they don't want to pay extra. And I that's all fine. And I get all that. It's just become like the only thing that anyone has been talking about for.
I know. I wanted to be excited about it. Obviously, I love Star Trek or I wouldn't be here. But I guess it's like the idea of having to wrestle with this sort of took away from the excitement. And maybe it's because I've been in marketing for too long. And so I know why they're doing it. If you can force people into a premium, you do it. And I get why. Yeah. It just sort of rubs me the wrong way that they would take advantage of us because I'm so devoted to the brand. Like I'm so devoted. I knew I was going to do it. But it was just the idea that they would
do it with Star Trek.
And the thing is like one of the things like vacations and premieres, one of the things that's the best part of the experience is getting excited about it. And it took away for me. Not only that, it was double jeopardy because you do like $7 with a couple of commercials, but then $10 if you don't want any commercials. Yeah, and then also it's not a binge situation like Netflix. So basically it's the worst parts about streaming, which is paying.
I just would have.
But I would have been very happy to wait on network television. That's my point. Is that it's like the worst of both worlds. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
They're mixing. The worlds are colliding.
And shows have done that, though. I mean, that's not unheard of. I mean, it's not. I know Netflix doesn't generally, but I mean, something like HBO, Game of Thrones, we wait every week for that kind of a thing. But get it. I get it.
But I still did it. I just wish I could have gotten that anticipation excitement.
I think maybe it's different because it's a network television station, CBS, not HBO, not Stars. So we would be probably used to doing this kind of a thing if it was cable, you know? Because my sister pays a lot of money to watch Stars.
For Outlander.
So it is actually though that people are just not seeing the. It is actually a separate thing though. It is, even though it's called CBS, it's CBS All Access. So,
but it's
to some people, they just feel like it's one big thing. But let me see if I can use like an analogy. It didn't used to be like, or maybe it still is. Joe, you probably know. You go to Disney, like you can get in like the main park, but like Epcot's extra. Right.
Right. It's like the park hopper. You can pay for, one pass, or you can pay to go to all of them. And, go
so I look
at
this as that kind of a thing like, oh, yeah. All right. I get normal CBS, but if I want this, all right, it's $5.99 or
like it's almost like it would have been fine if they had just not called it CBS All Access. If they'd called it something
Star Trek All Access.
Right.
Something,
the
just
Star Trek channel.
I would
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
see, that's interesting.
Do you know how much money I dropped 85 times?
Right.
I dropped it easy and quickly, and I spent so much money to see Wonder Woman this summer. And I didn't complain about it at all because it was, I knew what I was getting.
Yeah, you were there taking different people each time. You probably, what'd you see it 3 or 4 times or something like that?
Yeah, I saw it with my friends, I saw it with my family, and then I saw it with my mom.
And that's basically
and I spent so much money.
More than the Star Trek's going to cost you.
Yeah. So is it like Jen said, is it because it's CBS doing it and it has CBS in the name, and I already paid for CBS even though it's something
it's a marketing mistake.
Right.
They should have named it something else.
To Rico's point, at the end of the day, we all did it. And
I'm glad. I'm glad because I was one of the ones going, I already pay so much for Netflix and I got rid of cable because I'm trying to watch how much I pay. I was one of the ones complaining about it because I didn't know that it was only $5. That's not very much. I can do, and they offer you like a week trial. And you know what? After this season, I may like unsubscribe. And then subscribe again next season. But I have a feeling they'll probably up the price so that doesn't happen. So we're in early. You know what I mean? Angela, I've been in marketing too long too.
It's almost surprising that they didn't think about that, Jen, and like offer some kind of annual pass, right? Like or an annual like a subscription to keep people, because they know when this ends. Because I mean, they were throwing it all over the internet that all these people signed up to see this, right? They all signed up for CBS All Access, all these people. And they know, Joe and others that are gamers know this happens where it's like, hey, there's a new World of Warcraft expansion that comes out. And for 3 months, their subscriptions go up and then they die off or whatever. Exactly. Right. So what I think was starting to really just grind me down a little bit was, and I think Angela was sort of touching on this, is there were a lot of people that it wasn't even the money or the cost of it at all. It was sort of like a principle thing. And I'm like, I kind of understand that, except it's one thing to stand on a principle that's, I mean, like, this is just a TV show. I mean, if you really feel like you're having to just say, no, CBS, I won't give you even $2 or $5. I don't know what the cost would have been where people would have been checking out. Like, in other words,
I don't think there would have been. I don't think there is a cost.
There was a lot of just people, like, even if it was 99 cents, I think people would have had, a lot of them would have had the same attitude.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
It wasn't even the cost. It was more the principle of, how dare you ask me to pay extra for something that I'm already maybe paying for on, like, if you pay for, like, I pay for cable television, which includes CBS, but doesn't include this, obviously. So, yeah, no, I understand. Does anybody else want to touch on this one anymore, or should we? Let's once people I think hopefully watch the show. I mean, I've been saying all along. I said, well, watch it. Even if you took a shot at it for a month, and you'll get whatever that'll be 5 episodes by the end of the month. You can decide then if you like it or not, and keep paying or not keep paying, kind of a thing.
You convinced me. You convinced me, Rico. That episode where you talked about that. Yeah. You were like, it's a free, just do it a little bit for free. And then if you like it, you can pay it. And I was like, you know what? He's right. I'm going to try it.
What have I got to lose?
Yeah.
And honestly, I had a feeling that this podcast was coming. So I was like, I got to at least watch the first 2. Thank you for humoring me and talking about that part.
No, that's fine.
We can talk about the show now.
We've all seen both episodes. So let's just go down and everyone have a crack at this and say overall, without getting into details. And then I guess we can break into the shows and talk a little bit more about the characters and details in that. But I enjoyed it. It's a lot different than other Star Treks, but that was to be expected based on all the trailers that I had seen. I thought the cast is really strong and good. The writing I thought was pretty good. It's an interesting way to start. They just sort of threw you right into things. They didn't give anyone much background on anyone except for, I guess, a little bit about the main character and a couple of other characters. But I get the impression that we're going to learn a lot as the season goes on. It wasn't like, oh, okay, like when TNG, for example, started, that first episode tended to introduce the characters a lot. There were definitely scenes there that they sat down with, and this is this character, and that's what they're about and all, but they didn't really do that. What do they call it? A cold open. They just kind of like threw us into the situation. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It's different. We can maybe save it for later on, but of course, there's this whole thing. Brian keeps going on about it. Even though this is supposed to be set 10 years before the original series, it looks, of course, a lot different.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't even know what to say about that at this point in time, really. I mean, of course, it's going to look different. I'm okay with it. I think. I
mean, we can't have cardboard sets.
Yeah, and it's fine. I think they wanted to showcase and show off that they spent a lot of money here. I mean, this is an expensive looking show, and it shows. I mean, there's no question about that. So, would I have liked it to look a little bit maybe better, like the older show to a degree, perhaps, but. I've heard other little things that we may see little glimpses of that more when they get to Discovery and other things. So I'm excited by it. I think it's good. It's solid. I mean, there's nothing wrong that I can see really major right now. I don't have a problem with the whole fitting it into the timeline thing. I'm not that picky about that. It's Star Trek to a point. I think there's a lot of interesting things coming. They showed us a little flashes of what's to come in the season. I don't know how many little clips all those episodes were showing us, but one thing I'll mention is the After Trek show said that they were about to film, and I think that was live, so they're about to film the last episode.
Huh.
So that's kind of how they've got basically the whole season done, it sounds like. Well, at least filmed. So next, who wants to go next? What's your overall feel and impression about it? Anyone? Go ahead.
Or second, I really enjoyed it. I was super happy and glad that they've come out with another Star Trek show after so many years. And like you said a minute ago, Rico, they had to pedal down to the floor from the start of the show. I love the special effects. I really liked the area they were in. Was so interesting just to kind of look in the background to see where they were at and. The background special effects and things.
Yeah, it wasn't just black space, that's for sure, in that area.
Yeah, exactly. And then I found the second episode better, but I did think that both episodes were really good. And I mean, of course, I didn't like watching the commercials, of course, but still really enjoyed it and definitely looking forward to more shows to come. And there's even some neat characters, even from the Senzo. I mean, there are some neat characters there that we probably won't see anymore, of course, because of what happened, but. It was.
It seems like it kind of reminded me of the first start of like Deep Space Nine for in a way. With like they throw you right into a battle.
First of all, I love the music. Like the music, very much for me like harkened back. Like it felt very much like Star Trek, but it also felt very modern. Like I loved the intro and all of that, and I also really liked the actors and. I think it was very well cast. I was a little disappointed because there's been so much hype about the cast, not to see everybody that I'm excited to see.
But isn't that interesting, though?
It's interesting, but they've been hyping it, and I wanted to see them. So
next week, from what I hear,
they've been talking so much about Anthony Rapp being the first gay character and all of this stuff, and it's like, well, okay, Give me. That's
Episode
what I came
3
here
from
for.
what I
One of the things that, but like as I've gone through the years, like watching Star Trek and watching other sci-fi, is that when I go back and watch Star Trek, you see everything's very linear, 3 dimensions. And I was very excited to see them shoot it very much like Firefly, where you're coming at things from different angles and you see things very much in all of the different dimensions. I don't know if that makes sense. They did that a little bit in Enterprise. Did a little bit in Enterprise, but not as much. You still kind of had that feeling, but I really like that the shooting. And I don't want to say, like, my only criticism, like, overall isn't necessarily that it's dark necessarily, but it's just that there's a couple of things. And like you said, Rico, I don't really care about the continuity stuff. I can forgive a little bit, because part of my thing is that every time you do a show about the future, what it really is reflecting is our current world. What is it saying about 2017? I'm a very big believer in that as far as sci-fi is concerned.
Yeah.
And so I do not mind that there's some lens flares or whatever, because people like that or whatever.
Wasn't too much of that I noticed.
I counted 34 in just a couple of scenes.
I saw a couple people like complain about that, and I'm like, I don't really care about that. And then also,
well, there was the one big one. There was the one big lens.
Oh yeah. Their power is lens flare.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a couple of things that just didn't. I am going to leave my mind open and watch more.
Yeah.
But there was just a couple of like fundamental things in it that didn't feel very Star Trek to me, but I am willing to give it a chance.
Yeah, let's come back to that. And towards the end, because I had a couple little things too, and a little bit, and but not even just not Star Trek, just a couple things that didn't quite make sense or add up for me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Dramatic stuff that it's like, oh yeah, that was cool, but that really doesn't make sense, kind of a thing. But not a lot by any means. I mean, they did their homework. I mean, so Rick Pete or Rick Moore, you guys have been pretty quiet over there. So I got to bug one of you.
I mean, I loved it. I like you say, I've been waiting for so long to see good Trek on television. It was just, my wife and I were watching the football game, and I'm like, this better not go to overtime.
It was incredible that it did. Everybody was all worried about it. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, it did go to overtime. What?
But I thought it was great. The score, I agree with Angela. The score was fantastic. I thought the opening credits
super interesting.
Different. Yeah. I really loved what they did with that. I love Klingons, so I totally geeked out at all the Klingon stuff that was going on in the show.
Boy, there was more Klingon language in that first episode, especially than I think we've seen total in the whole everything else in Star Trek.
I felt like I was watching Narcos.
Jeez, it was a lot of Klingon.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, people say it's darker. I guess I look at it more as being.
Now, everyone has to define when they say the darker factor. Are we just talking about lighting? Or are we talking about grimness?
The tone of the story.
Okay, because I've heard both. I've heard people talk about literally it is visually darker, and I think that sort of was intentional, obviously. But all right, you're talking about the tone, Rick Pete. Okay.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not sure. To me, the tone. I'm not sure if I think the tone is dark. I just think that the tone is real. I think they were trying to go for a little bit more realism within the scope of the story.
Yeah.
As opposed to the more idyllic version of Starfleet and the UFP and all of that. But in terms of character interactions and responses to things, I just think they chose to go with real emotion and not try to play it out with some altruistic approach to resolution. I mean, the only one who really had that was Michelle Yeoh. Everybody else, I think, seemed to be a little more realistic, particularly.
They're just holding on.
Yeah. But it was good. Clearly, they were willing to take some chances, but they are trying. I think they're trying to stay true to the canon from like a 30,000-foot level perspective of canon.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Really good
point. Teeny pieces of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed, it seems to me that they say that it's in the Prime universe, but the show to me feels like a blending between the Enterprise era and the JJ era. On the outside, the ships look like Enterprise era.
I think that's intentional.
like JJ. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, they've been pretty successful, and I think they maybe they feel that looks a little bit cooler, more futuristic, and
Beyond was sort of that way too, right? Because they had that whole aspect of that movie.
True, very true.
Yeah, Joe, what'd you think overall?
Yeah, same as everyone else. I really loved it. I honestly, I was sort of blown away to an extent. Like, it was more than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it pulled a lot of, you know, I say this a lot on various shows. It pulled a lot of the aspects of like DS9 that I really liked, with characters that are flawed. It's not just everyone that sits on, you know, in their on their nicely carpeted starship, you know, listening to classical music and doing art and all that. They're
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I mean, you know, we have like the main character who, you know, through the arc of, she has an interesting background to begin with. And then through the arc of these 2 episodes already, she has, I guess, in Starfleet's eyes, majorly screwed up. And, you know, the science officer is a coward. You know, it's just like, it's just very.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get too much that he's a coward. I got that's just his.
Well, it's his species, and they're they're a prey species. So his goal in life is to stay alive and, you know, hide from predators.
Run away. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like the opposite of Worf, right? I
kind of liked him though a lot.
I like him a lot, and that's why
he was a lot more interesting than I thought. He's got a lot of personality for
and I like that he's like 7 feet tall, and they can make
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and because I'm like, you know, a ship's guy and stuff, like I'm sure a lot of you noticed like a lot of the sound effects, and they were sort of like the first thing you hear is
I love that.
Yeah, the first thing you hear when they zoom into the bridge is that background bridge TOS noise.
Loved it.
But then the computer sounds are all from TNG, and like it's just like it's really interesting.
It's okay because
I loved it. I loved it.
To all of us, I love it. You're right. It's good.
Yeah,
and especially sound, because sound I find really does speak to you on like a very basic level.
It does.
I want them to continue with the music and the sound effects. If that continues or even gets more, it's going to add a lot, you know.
And it was funny. I thought the intro, I really did like the intro, like Rick said. And at first, like, I think I had seen the animation thing on Facebook beforehand, and I was like, that's like a fan thing. But it has like this very cool, like, kind of Da Vinci like blueprints, which
and you if you remember the opening credit to the opening credits to Enterprise, that style was sort of used a little bit there too.
I noticed that too, Rico.
Yeah, it was that, but it was also
but that style of, you know, hey, this is how we advance, and here's some drawings, and here's some things, and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and just cool that like they're exploding a phaser and like stuff like that. Like, it's super cool, and it also had strains of like a Bond intro to me.
I recognize the artwork as Juan Ortiz, who is the artist who does the poster art. I don't know if you remember seeing it's everywhere on the internet. It's really cool. He does like poster art of specific episodes from TOS and TNG. He has 2 of those books out, and he did a Star Trek calendar. So I'm wondering, because it's so similar to his artwork, if they had him do it, because he does work for Disney and Warner Brothers. It wouldn't be crazy to think that maybe he had something to do with that little intro.
Like, was it I Dream of Jeannie that had the animated intro way back when?
Yeah, they did a little.
Both.
Yeah,
it was Bewitched
part of it.
and I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, or whatever. It's just like it's not that, obviously, but it's like it does kind of remind you, like Jen said, of like a 60s show.
Poster art, yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Jen, what else? So since you started in, why don't you?
I was going to let Amy go next since she hasn't had a chance to talk.
Amy?
Are you there, Amy?
Yeah, I just thought it was very high quality. I read somewhere, can't remember the article now, but the budget was similar to, you know, like major motion picture budgets per episode. I was impressed with the quality of it. And of course, I like the fact that the main character, for a change, I know we had Captain Janeway, but I thought it was interesting how they chose the first officer as the main character. It's just that she's a strong woman. I thought that was nice. Yeah, I thought it was good. And the fact that it was a new Star Trek, that is always my big thing, because we watch a lot of reruns around here. So,
what are you trying to say?
The new Star Trek is always a plus in my book, because I don't like reruns as much as my dearest.
And I thank God for Netflix.
Now Rick has a whole new thing to memorize.
I do.
Yes.
Sadly, I will too.
You're right.
Sadly, I like that.
I guess that's my 2 cents. Did you have any, Rick?
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. Of course, I thought it was great. Are you kidding? I just laugh at the people that are saying I won't pay for that. I'm a Trekkie. I'm like, duh. I'm a Trekkie and I paid more for it. So whatever.
Well, in a way, though, we don't go to the movies very much.
Yeah. But this is Trek. I mean,
this is
for
like
goodness sakes.
half a movie ticket.
Yeah.
And we get to stay home and make our own,
Popcorn.
low-calorie popcorn.
Yeah. And we can push pause, which is always nice. But no, what I really liked about the show is it did feel like a fusion between Enterprise and JJ. I thought it was visually stunning. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the plot of everything yet. We'll see. The Klingons, even though I really liked the Klingons of old, they were fascinating, actually. And
these are like scary Klingons, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And as I was watching it, the only problem I had with the entire show, I loved the show. Both of them were great. My only problem was I couldn't keep up with the subtibles on my screen.
Oh, that was difficult.
I agree.
I think I need a bigger TV, is what it is. What do you think?
No,
Can we get a bigger one?
You just need to learn Klingon.
I think
that's all.
the editing on the Klingon stuff did need to be better.
Yeah,
I
that was
agree with
difficult.
There was some stuff moving by pretty quick, and
Now, watching it the second time, I'm getting more.
I mean, most of it was like this prophecy like stuff. So, you did, if you missed a
Sometimes
line or two.
But still, though, I mean, you don't want to feel like it's going by too fast.
I think part of the problem with that is the use of a serif font for the subtitles, and on websites and on television, a lot of time you see sans serifs. Serifs are the little feet on type, on the letters
like
that you
Times
see.
New Roman.
You see them a lot in
fancy stuff.
You see that
was
in
weird.
books. It's easier to read books when they have little feet, but sans serif when they don't have feet is easier to read on monitors. So I struggled. My eye kept stopping on those little feet on the font. So I think that probably tripped some of us up because it wasn't easy to read.
Kind of a font. It was a little bit weird compared to what I've usually seen for subtitles. Like if you watch a movie and you turn on subtitles,
yeah,
it's not. I don't know what font they're using on normal subtitles on movies, but it wasn't that one. Whatever
because the one they use on movies are the ones that are recommended because people can read them easier. And the point that Jen's trying to make is they were trying to be fancy and at the expense of the fact that it was harder to read. Yeah,
form over function.
Form follows function.
Yeah, that was a little. Yeah, I noticed that too. And if you had depending on what kind of screen you're watching it on, I could see that issue. Hey, Sean, you there? Yeah. What was your general feel for this show?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I loved every minute of it. Mostly. I didn't like the planet desert scene. It was a bit clunky of the dialogue, but because they were like, oh, you've been with us for 7 years kind of thing, and like just getting all the exposition out of the way. I see what you mean a little bit. It felt a little bit like, Michael, you have been with me this long. Why don't you know me by now? That kind of thing, right? Right. Exactly.
You wouldn't have expected two old comrades or friends / one, working together for that long to talk actually like that. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It was a little, I agree.
That's the only thing, but the main
thing
I did
like that scene. I thought that was kind of a cool opening myself, at least. Yeah. It looked cool.
But it felt like Star Trek. It wasn't the Orville, that's for sure. So why is it a Delta shield? It shouldn't be. I don't know. Why do the Klingons look like that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's been a long road getting from there to here, so I'm going to have a little bit of faith of the heart, and I'm going to go with it.
I love it.
I read a lot of comics, and there's a general thing in comic books that I listen to a podcast called iFanboy that I think I've mentioned on the show before. But one of the things those guys always bring up is I don't need everything explained.
Exactly.
I don't need to explain why the Hulk is now purple or whatever, blue or whatever necessarily. That's probably not a good example, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's new Star Trek, and that's what matters.
They sometimes have to, the more, it's like we've talked about with Star Wars before about like midichlorians, the biggest mistake, in the world for the Force, right? I mean, like, yes. No, George, I don't need to know how it works. It's magical. Just keep it that way. Just keep it that way. I don't need to know how it's working. No.
That's right.
And actually, maybe that's something to bring up with this as well is, and maybe this will change through the rest of the series, but through these episodes, there was no technobabble whatsoever.
No.
See, I'm sort of sad about that because maybe that's the reason why I felt
there was a bit
un-Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
In some ways.
There may be. I mean, there's always going to be a bit, but it's not something that's like going to save the. It's not like, we're going to launch a tachyon beam to the reverse of the polarity of the
polarity on the main deflector, and we can push all those Klingons away. Yeah.
Well, I know.
Just when they were explaining the vertical, lateral, whatever in the transport. That's the only technical battle I picked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even that was like sort of her saying like, you guys are inferior.
Right. Exactly.
your thing sucks, right?
But the best part is that these characters feel relatable. They feel like real people. Like the scene where Saru and Burnham are pushing each other at the console. Like you never saw that in any other Star Trek. They're having fun. They're friends, and these are real people, not not like what we're used to.
I don't know. I kind of thought it was a little bit like Spock and Bones. The competition between Michael and the lieutenant. Yeah, I liked that.
That was awesome.
What's with the Michael thing? All right, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I mean, like, I don't like.
She's named after
why?
her.
Brian Fuller. It's his motif. It's the thing he does. All of his characters that are women are named after men. Yeah,
men's names.
Gender fluidity of the future.
But all
that's what Shaniqua said. She said that it was the gender fluidity of the future, that guys can be named after their mothers and women can be named after their fathers, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to us because
I kind of go along with that, except I want to see them do and maybe I've missed it somewhere along the way, but they don't do the flop of that though that I've ever really seen them do, right?
Or maybe that's the point, is that it doesn't matter so much that it doesn't require explanation.
Well, let's see a guy named what was that song? A boy named Sue.
Sue, yeah, Johnny Cash.
I don't know.
And here she is.
Honestly, though, you guys.
I get what they're trying to do. I sort of admire that, and I get that, except it just comes off to us 21st century people as a little.
Like I said, it was quoted. Brian Fuller. That's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of his female characters are named after guys. So that's just his thumbprint on the character.
But your average person who just sits down and watches the show is what I'm thinking of. And I'm fine with it.
I just want to say I did know a woman named Michael. Her name was Mary Michael.
There are female Michaels.
Yeah.
Well, I've run into
all of the things.
Had a male, a very, very typical male name.
True, but of the things that bothered me, that was really honestly not one of them. Like I can get past that.
I just
more than anything.
Have fun
there was other things that were
a little
more questionable.
Can I talk about?
I agree.
Can I go?
So tell me. Okay.
Go, Jen.
Me.
Go ahead with your what were the things that you would rather they did different, or however you want to put it.
Well, first, I didn't get a chance to say whether I liked it or not. I loved it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I love the show. I think it's great. I'm going to have to give it some more time to see. I've heard people say it feels more sci-fi than Star Trek. It feels more new Star Trek film to me, which I didn't really dig as much. But I am very optimistic that they're going to inject some of the things that are quintessential Star Trek, like the moral tales and the message and things like that will come into play. I'm sure.
For that.
Can you make me a drink too?
Somebody's making a mojito or something in the background there. I hear some ice, and if
it's not me,
I'm betting Rick Moyer myself.
I think it's Rick Moyer.
I mean, you got to figure that these first two episodes are just a prologue to the real pilot, which is episode 3.
Right, we haven't gotten to the Discovery yet.
Yeah, we got to get to Discover before we're going to see.
Yeah, but we don't know that. That's kind of like, flinging us into Firefly with the second episode and I've never seen the pilot kind of thing. You know what I mean?
True.
So you shouldn't have to rely on that. But I thought Michael was awesome. She was a dash of Kirk with a smidge of Spock. I liked that.
Yes. Good way to put it.
Actually, and the Shenzhou, did you know the Shenzhou? I had to look it up. It's a spacecraft developed by China. It's named after a ship. It's part of their manned space flight program. So that's interesting because Michelle Yeoh is Chinese Malaysian, and I think that maybe they cast her because of that or named the ship because of that. Anyway, I love that the two women characters are also so diverse. That's the first in Star Trek, and it's awesome. I mean, other than Nichelle Nichols, which paved the way, now we have these two women who are obviously allowing people of those cultures to feel like they also have a presence in the future, you know, in positions of authority, which is great. I love that about Star Trek. A couple of things that I got hung up on was Lobot Dude and Daft Punk Chick.
Yeah,
and
what was up with that?
And Star Wars holograms. I was like, what? Whoa, wait, what universe am I in?
Yeah.
They died or something.
Overall, I mean, those are little things. It's Star Trek, and I'm open to it. I'm going to go with it.
Daft Punk Chick.
That was awesome, Jen. And I saw like
Lobot
3 memes today going, what is up with this guy? Like, what's going on here?
I really wanted to know more. And also, I was disappointed I didn't hear Majel Barrett's voice in the computer.
Well, maybe the computer on the Discovery will have her.
Maybe.
Let's hope so.
Everybody kept talking about how she recorded everything. She did the whole series, she did the whole thing before she passed away. Yeah. So the whole point is that she would be the Star Trek computer like forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's still hope for that.
Want.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a lot of things a little different on when they get to Discovery.
Yeah, they even said that the Shenzhou was an old ship, right?
Yes, old transporter room, yeah.
And I really loved the way that everything was shot. It felt more cinematic. And
yeah, I mean, it felt like a big movie. Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Totally.
I felt like I was part of the action. The camera angles, the way things were spinning around, and it was great. Love it.
And space was a thing. It was a danger, and that's not usually true in Star Trek.
Except for her jumping between.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, okay, I need to ask some sciencey people. I have to ask some sciencey people.
Irradiated, then she got nearly frozen, but boy, she's tough. She's pretty tough. Maybe growing up on Vulcan, I've thought that probably growing up on Vulcan has made her a little bit tougher than the average person because
that doesn't change her physiology.
Well, no, but if you're, Joe and others might be able to speak to this. If you're used to thinner air, for example, and a heavier, warmer climate and so forth and so on, your body does.
But I've always had a problem when sci-fi does that, because isn't space a vacuum? Wouldn't everything that has air inside of it be sucked out of all your orifices and crushed down? And you know what I mean?
That's something you have to go look, because movies do that different. Like, you had whatever it was called, Total Recall, where they jumped out onto the Martian surface and
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it's just
the split second of the whoosh of air. I gave him a little bit of leeway. I've seen it done worse in shows and movies before.
Yeah, and like her skin got frosted and everything. So I don't know.
The computer said what she could survive for whatever.
They set up the rules. I guess that was the important
thing. Was, and
you might be able to survive, but I don't think that means you come out of it unscathed.
Right.
Yeah, she was pretty much walking around right after that, right? She was.
Yeah, she's all, let's go.
Her eyes were affected.
It was only 6 seconds.
She should have. Her eyes should have been closed in the vacuum of space.
Or something. Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, the computer set up the rules, and I think for TV, that's probably sufficient.
Yeah. I mean, as long as she doesn't go flying through space every week, fine, whatever. But okay, I can float around in space.
I did think it was a little thin, though. Like the whole idea of and we're setting up that this person has been raised on Vulcan. The mental gymnastics they had to go through to get her character out onto the weird thing in the middle of space. I was a little skeptical of that, honestly.
You mean the spacesuit part? You mean when she's...
I mean, granted, yes, they're showing us that she's this character that takes chances, and they're trying to explain her character and everything, but I don't know. It didn't feel organic to me. Like, it didn't get... And maybe we'll learn more that will make me feel differently about it, but it's like, really, that was the only option of finding out what's in there. I don't know. It just felt there was a lot of gymnastics that had to happen.
It was a cool scene, yeah.
It was cool, but the way they set it up.
A shuttle couldn't handle that. If her in a little suit could handle it, I had a hard time understanding why a thought a good shuttle pilot couldn't.
Maybe she was harder to detect than a shuttle would have been, open season for a Klingon vessel.
I mean, they made a comment in the show that said the shuttle couldn't handle it. They specifically said that.
I understand, but I'm just saying
the shuttle has more mass, so it's going to be more effective by gravitational pull. My thing was, we see in Star Trek all the time. Why is the first officer doing it anyway? It should be some second level science
red shirt
to do that, not her.
No, she's obviously she's the Kirk. She volunteers for everything. So
but you know what? Though?
Yeah, I get you.
Another thing that's weird is that I mean, the red shirt obviously is a joke, but like, except for the sounds and some of those things, I really was hoping for a few more references to things that we are familiar with.
Well, she Kirk-viewed the computer.
Maybe what?
She Kirk-viewed the computer.
Yeah,
that's right. She outsmarted her.
That was awesome.
I did enjoy that.
That's right.
Good scene. That was a real good scene where she basically out logics the computer.
But my point is that the whole way they got people to start paying for this is all of us who are like super diehard fans. I just wish there were a couple of more things for us. I felt like when we went to see Star Wars, they did a very good job of like, this is a new story, but it's also what you remember. I was hoping for a couple more little winks.
I saw
I think
you
there'll be a
those.
lot of that in the.
Maybe you're right.
I think there's going to be a lot of that in the rest of the season, from what I've been hearing, and even they talked about that a little bit on this After Trek show with Rick Moyer's favorite host on After Trek.
Who is it?
Some idiot.
I didn't recognize him.
I didn't watch it
flashed
because
his
I
name
wanted
up
to
there
be
a couple
clean.
of times. He's a big goofy guy with a beard and glasses and hammed it up on the camera way too much.
And no control, man. No control.
Maybe he was real excited.
He was just super annoying, apparently. I haven't seen it yet, but it sounded like Caesar Flickerman from The Hunger Games or something.
Good gracious.
Now, Angela, I think there are a couple of things though, like that we got the Vulcan neck pinch.
Oh, that was good.
Cool.
We got
Yeah, but in a weird,
like TOS.
in a weird time though. Like I agree about the Vulcan neck pinch.
When is it a good time to get
But we're
it on your captain?
Good times.
There's never a good time to use it on your captain, though.
I realized that.
That was never going to be cool.
Because I saw that coming like 5 minutes before that happened.
You did?
But
Really?
also,
I did.
I didn't see that.
I said she's gonna take over and she's gonna pinch her captain. I saw it coming a mile away.
Wow.
She grew up on Vulcan. She's gonna knock the captain out because she can't get through to she can't convince her and she's running out of time. And she's gonna pull a Kirk move here. Yeah.
my issue with
And we
that,
had
though-
another Kirk move with her outsmarting the computer.
Yeah.
No,
I
she's very Kirk like.
You know, there's a lot of. I
thought.
thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angela.
No, go, Jen.
I was looking the second time I went through and watched it for all the little parallels to the Star Trek I know and love, and they were there because if you think of, there were some little small, nicely done little details. Like if you remember when she was talking to Hollow Sarek in her, I guess that was her quarters. The background, I took screenshots of it. It's an updated version of Spock's quarters from TOS. So look at that. And then also, the other thing I loved was that she is basically a parallel to Worf, who was raised by humans after his parents, who were Klingon, were killed by Romulans. And here's this human child. Her parents were killed by Klingons and raised by a Vulcan. So I loved the slight little nods to Trek that are very subtle. I don't need to be hit over the head. I just want it to be subtle.
I mean, I understand that. And there are some subtleties. I guess. And again, like I'm going to keep watching to see what happens because it was very fascinating and exciting and that kind of stuff. But I feel like I think
there'll be more. Yeah, I think it'll be good.
And also, since we don't have like the cast yet, I mean, this is like the prequel to the show, and and this was one of the things that annoyed me about Force Awakens as well. It's more of a concept thing. They showed the First Order as being so ridiculously overpowered that it was almost comical and not scary because you knew they were going to find a way. And I feel like in this, it's like, here she goes. And in the first couple episodes, she defies orders. She gets imprisoned. They show this preview of her. Here's the person you know is going to be the star of the show and the good guy, right? The guy you're rooting for. And in the first couple of episodes, it's so ridiculous, committing mutiny, attacking your captain, going to prison. Like everything is so ridiculously stacked against her. It becomes comical in a way. I am like, okay, well, that's
too much,
fine.
kind of. You
She's
mean
gonna
Angela,
have,
like you just went too
like it's
much.
just they dug her too deep of a hole
dug
and it's
her
kind
too
of
deep of a hole.
overboard. Yeah,
that it's like if you get her out of this, you're just again with the mental gymnastics of getting her out. Even if we agree with why she did it, they're setting up that no one else gets why she did it. And since we're
well,
here,
she's obviously not going to stay, in prison for very long. And I thought that was kind of a mistake to even imply that she was going to, for a couple of reasons. First off, she's obviously had a lot of training and has been an exemplary Starfleet officer. Yeah. And they just lost a lot of people. They just lost a bunch of people. So. All right,
but it looks like there's going to be more going on to it than, I guess, like, did you guys see the, coming up on the season of
Yes, well, I know, and that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
No,
So,
just one more thing before I stop is that the one of the things that really got me yesterday, that was the thing that annoyed me, was that when she was in front of that tribunal or whatever, and everybody was in these downward lights, and I was like,
it was like a Klingon tribunal.
It was so un-Starfleet. That really hit me over the head as no.
You should have been in a little office with an admiral.
That was too
Romulan.
It was too Romulan, or too. It was too far. It was
maybe Cardassian.
Far. Yes.
It was like the high command.
That wasn't just. Oh, it's a modern take. That was totally 180 degrees away from what we know to be Starfleet. So that was my biggest beef. But I
almost wonder if that's because they're looking. They were
as much as me.
Right. I wonder if they were looking for a scapegoat sort of a thing, because this was obviously a huge disaster, and they can sort of very indirectly trace it back to her, kind of, but not really. And they're like, okay, well, this commander, whoever's going to take the fall, so we're okay.
Maybe
that makes
the fall
sense.
guy, fall person,
yeah.
Michael.
But on the other hand, if this was in this time of day, and a naval officer disobeyed orders and things like that happened, it would absolutely be brought up on court-martial charges.
Oh, yeah. I'm not worried about. I'm not questioning her being brought up on charges. That's because of what she did. Obviously, I'm talking more about the cinematic and the design choices of having this 3 people in a tribunal, because we've seen courtrooms in Star Trek before in our lives, in our history, and it's not this weirdly half-lit bad guys, with all this downward lighting. It's hey, we're giving you a fair trial, and you did mutiny. I mean, you did it. It's not that's not really up for debate.
And she pled guilty on top of it all, right?
Yeah, you did it for the right reason. But they're setting up, for people who don't know Star Trek, they're setting up the Federation as being idiot bad guys, which is not something that I personally like.
No, I brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
I know, but okay. Does anybody understand what I'm
You're talking about from an aesthetic.
It does seem a little. It seems very weird, but then again, the whole show. I wouldn't have expected, Angela. The only thing I'll say about it is the whole show doesn't really look like Star Trek that we've seen. So if they had flashed to that courtroom, it seemed to fit with the rest of the show. If they had done a TNG or even a TOS style courtroom at that point, I would have felt well, okay. And I don't mean that far, but you know what I mean? The whole show was kind of dark and kind of weird.
Yeah,
and
maybe they could have just had them lit normally doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit much. It was what are you trying to hide, guys, or whatever? And I get it. I understand.
I think the point of that was just to get us where we needed to go. So it was sort of we need to show that, there's court, it was fast, there's not any decisions to be made, and now she's, going to prison, and now we can start the show.
Well, now they've made her into the Tom Paris of Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
Right.
Somewhat, but Paris even wasn't that far gone. I didn't think, but
well, just the fact that she was in prison, and now that somebody's gonna come and get her out and make her a first officer.
True. One little thing that I wanted to make sure I slid in here, and it's totally not connected to her character and all that, but how come in and they did it in this show and they've done it before, but how come when there's ever a battle and there's one little ship out there facing a whole bunch of enemies, when the good guys show up, how do they all warp in at the same time? Were they all just sort of sitting at Burger King somewhere out in space, and then they just oh gosh, did your red alert thing go off? Yeah, mine too. Well, let's go. And
no, they trained to do that at Starfleet Academy for sure. The dramatic entrance course.
I just say it's a cool scene when they do that, but it's it doesn't make were there about a dozen ships that warped in there at that point?
Well, I would think what a lot of fleets would do, because you wouldn't want from a tactical,
right, and then they all jump in at the same point or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's like in Star Wars with the the fleets of Massinger Sauce or whatever.
If you got a call through subspace or whatever and said, we need your help badly, wouldn't you just race there as fast as possible?
But if you're saying we need your help badly and there's 24 Klingon ships
Klingon
here,
houses, you have to...
So you would let the one ship live on its own until you could all pop in there at the same time?
You lose one ship or you lose, 20 ships one at a time.
All right.
Joe makes sense.
That.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just always, they do it so much. I'm kind of.
I mean, realistically, it's for effect because it looks damn cool, right?
It does look cool.
Yes, and
another thing,
and the Klingons did the same thing. So
another thing that I don't really care. This is one of the things that was so cool. I didn't care was when that cloaked Klingon ship destroyed that admiral ship. That was like the coolest thing, and it made no sense. And I don't know if I care if I liked it or not, but it was so kick-ass. Like it was just like, here's something out of nowhere, and then suddenly it materializes, and you're like, oh
very
my God.
Klingon kind of thing.
And I remembered that's before the cloaking device treaty, obviously.
No, I was just going to say, just how they ended it in Star Trek Nemesis. They had a big collision too.
Oh yeah, and
they could have gotten it from there. Rogue One. Yeah, I was thinking.
I was going to say, you remember, that old debate we always have about why don't they just transport a photon torpedo onto the ship and destroy it? And they totally did.
Totally, that
was good.
That was very cool how they
and
did that.
They did that well.
Super
Yeah,
creepy and Reaver-like.
Yes, I love that.
On their
ship. They're so scary.
Now I guess the question is this Klingon guy? Is he done? He's not the bad guy.
Now he's a martyr.
He's the martyr, and now it'll be
Taser face
will take over.
Taser face.
Taser face.
One thing I didn't like that was to me that was a canon breach with the Klingons is in TNG it's very clear when the Klingon's dead and they do the roar and they say, what do we do with the body? And they always say it's an empty shell, treated as such.
Yep.
Why do they have a sarcophagus ship? It just makes no sense. And then after the war, after the battle, they're beaming the dead back onto the ship. None of that.
I don't care about that.
I have a theory.
It's a different sex.
I have a theory. I really wanted to know what the deal was with why did they keep touching the makeup on the Klingons? So I was looking into that. I mean, how many times are we going to have to reboot the Klingons? Yeah. I was reading into it and looking it up, and Brian Fuller basically said he wasn't going to be a part of the show unless they gave them a reboot, basically, because he thought they were kind of boring because they were all, they all looked basically the same skin tone and all of that, same hair colors. So he thought it's a biological difference and that the different houses would look different, not necessarily all the same kiss, rock boot, armor-wearing Klingons that we know from TNG, right? But and also I started thinking, okay, well, if that's the direction they're going, maybe this group, this house, is more of the religious extremists, and maybe their burial practices are different than other houses. Right, so basically,
I am cool with that.
The other houses that we've seen apparently on TNG are probably part of the 24 houses, but only a fraction of those that we know.
Survived the slaughter.
So will we see TOS style Klingons?
Maybe.
But those are supposed to be, I hope not, because that was supposed to be a virus mutation, right? Or some sort of genetic.
It was a whole augment thing.
I don't think we'll see him for a while. Maybe towards later at some point, but not at this point.
I would love them to work it in a little bit, just to kind of give it some continuity.
They do. I like the idea that they're basically retconning that in a good way. I hope it's a good way. If they're going to reboot the Klingons' physiques, I would prefer it would be to fix why they always look different, like from film to TV show to TV show.
I mean, the bridge looks different. Everything looks different.
I would very much accept an updated version of what I recognize, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job. I just think that sometimes they just get a little too creative, and they have their own. I feel like there's still boundaries to it. And
especially since none of the other aliens get these kinds of facelifts.
Well, they just switch aliens. That's what they do. They just switch
the Vulcans always look like Vulcans.
Well, Andorians always look like Andorians.
Did you notice that?
Andorian yet.
Pretty much,
You did talk about the Andorians.
And
I was like, I I laughed about that though because I was like, the poor Andorians. They're like the Jerry from Parks and Rec. They're the Zoidberg of the poor Star Trek universe.
Why not Shran?
Why not? Yeah.
But you noticed that the Klingon blood was pink.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, that was from Undiscovered Country that we got to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, the floaty CGI blood.
Yeah.
Magenta blood.
Ooh.
I almost kind of wish they had put those 2 episodes out as CBS normal channel movie.
It should have been a 2-hour pilot because I was
right.
Yeah,
and then we got this episode 3 because everything, like they talked about it on that After Trek a little bit with Goofy Guy, because that's going to be a big shift, and we're going to see Discovery next week from what they said, and they showed a little preview clip for that during that show that we didn't see really last night, even in that last little bit they showed us. So I get the impression that we got this, but everything from now on for the rest is going to be a fairly different situation and journey. They kind of like, all right, we've thrown everything at you. You know, we lost a lot of ships. She's now dug herself a deep hole, and now we got to dig our way back out of it. And they didn't show that yet. And I think to get everyone really hyped about this, I think just seeing these 2 episodes, you know, this talk about dark and grimness, I think is kind of justified a little bit. A better way to do it would have been to give us a 2-hour show on CBS and then showed us like, oh, but now there's this.
Yeah, it's sort of like New Galactica or 04 Galactica, right? You had the miniseries, and that set up a whole bunch of stuff. And then the show started, and it was a slightly different tone than the miniseries was.
That's a really good analogy, Joe, to bring up, because that show, I didn't really like the first whatever it was.
The miniseries was a bit draggy, I found at times.
I loved the show once it really got into the show part, but I almost didn't watch it because I really didn't like the miniseries that led up to it as much, not anything like the show itself. So that's a good comparison to make.
33 is like the best first episode of any series I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's
a really good thing to bring up and I think they have to be careful because obviously they want people to watch this show like anybody wants any product that they put out to be watched on television or however you watch it these days, and to have that big difference there, I think is a bit of a, I don't know. I think they would have been better to give us something else too.
We were talking about how it reflects kind of the times of today, what's going on in our world, socio-political atmosphere. And that harkens back to TOS too, because the Klingons back then basically represented the Soviet Union. The Federation was basically, the optimistic Americans, democracy and freedom. And
yeah, we were out to save the world.
Yeah. And so this is kind of the same thing, only for this time it's like extremism. Yeah. The Klingons represent that because of their, their religious cult-like fanaticism,
Well, they're certainly saying that they want to represent what's going on in the world. So,
and they're doing that. And that's why
I think that's
the idea.
Sci-fi's for, I think.
And I get upset when people say, oh, this isn't Star Trek because Star Trek is all about, issues and message and blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Maybe we don't have the full message yet, but they're talking about stuff that matters. Like,
oh yeah.
I agree with that. But I think the only thing that kind of makes me, and this is something I've had trouble with since after TNG, is that, and I don't mind dark things and exploring whatever, but I've always felt like, and this is one of the things I kind of like about the J.J. Abrams, is that they kept that kind of spirit of hope. I want some hope. I want it's gonna get better. That's the thing that I've always felt has been at the core of what Star Trek is this idea of, this is a world where a lot of the things that we're worried about now are not, we've risen above them. I know that sounds like I'm Pollyanna, but I like the idea of showing a little bit of hope that people who once maybe disagreed can come to some sort of common balance. I don't know. I like the idea of Star Trek being a little bit about hope, but I get it and I don't enjoy it any less. But there is a part of me who enjoys that little bit of hope for the future.
But I think the thing is, we don't know yet. Right? Because this is not Star Trek like we've had before. But before, we saw Encounter at Farpoint. And at the end of it, everyone was happy. And we saw, the first episode, we saw Emissary from
I feel DS9 joy, Captain. I feel joy.
Right. And then, DS9, it's a darker show, but even, they didn't
have these arcs. This is probably going to all be one gigantic arc like Battlestar.
I know.
But one of the things I was going to say that Michelle Yeoh's character am I saying it right? I apologize to any Chinese people out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's correct.
Yeah. So what was the captain's name?
Giorgio?
Philippa something.
Philippa Lavoie from TNG.
Yeah.
I thought that she represented that hope and optimism. You know, she wanted to extend peace.
They literally killed her, Jen.
They did. That's where I was getting at. That's probably why you feel it's so
they killed
dark.
Hope.
I saw that coming, by the way, as soon as I went over there and she was fighting.
I told Jim we were watching. I'm like, don't get too attached to her.
But I didn't know. I didn't realize until they were fighting. You know, she and the Klingon were fighting that was going to happen, and I was very disappointed because I love that character.
She's great.
Yeah, well,
first thing Fran said, she's not in the credits.
Except in IMDb, she's listed in 15 episodes, and I don't know if that's a miss.
It's going to be flashbacks or something.
Are they going to flashback in every episode with her?
Yes.
But
because she's like her mom.
Her surrogate mom.
I do like her character. I agree, Jen, that she's a great character, and I was kind of sad about it.
Michael's got to deal with her consequences of her actions. And so I've read that she's going to be dealing with, what if she hadn't done this or done that, and would her captain still be alive? And she's got some issues to work through.
Yeah, because you see that throughout the show. Like she keeps saying, she says, I'm trying to save the crew, but she always says, I'm trying to save you.
And that's when she said that I thought she sees her as a mom, mother figure.
Well, I'm excited to see the Captain Lorca because the little bits I've seen, that guy, I think he's going to be great. He looks very much like he sees sort of like a little bit of him in the Michael Burnham character. Like he doesn't seem like a total by the book kind of guy.
I sort of wonder because, in that, coming up on the season, they talk about like something's going on this ship. And I know Jen's seen the OA and he's like kind of the crazy doctor guy in there. And it's sort of like, is he running something shady? Like
I just don't trust him anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they say something like he has like something in his past maybe or blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I saw a scene where they showed him, he has like, it looks like, I don't know if it's always in the show, but he has a pet tribble that he's petting on his desk. Has anyone seen that?
Oh, that's dangerous.
People are going to get mad about it.
I did see that
the tribbles aren't supposed to be introduced until...
Well, maybe he's going to beam it over.
I'm sure Harry Mudd got him a tribble somehow.
Oh, I can't wait to see Rainn Wilson as Harry Mudd. That seems...
I'm going to have to show Jim like the actual Harry Mudd episode. So before we watch that.
Is he going to be in the next episode?
Looks good. I'm not sure if he's in the next one or not. He's listed as like 9 episodes worth, but he looks good. Yeah, no, I think we're off to a good start. I mean, I hope internet people will stop talking about
it'll die down.
I'm starting to get the impression that some of these Trek groups that I've followed for a while, I'm just kind of turning them off because there are people that are actively like literally think this is like, I'm going out of my way to make everyone see how like, oh, this isn't Star Trek type of thing. And I'm like, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But why are you making this like?
It'll die down. I mean, we talked about this today in the chat, right? It's like TNG came out. Oh, a bald captain who's French. Wow, that's stupid. Oh, a space station. That's dumb. Oh, a woman captain. Oh, the guy from Quantum Leap. Like, it's always not Star Trek until it is.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters are gonna.
It's not Star Trek until it is.
But you know what? True fans can dislike things about Star Trek and still love it at the same time. I mean, it's okay.
It's all about whatever happened to Edic. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I mean, isn't Trek should be? That's the part that I always have the most trouble with, Jen. And everyone else on Skype that is just we're supposed to be the most open-minded of people, right? And there's a lot of them that are just like, nope, that's not my Star Trek. Nope.
Yeah, they're not even going to give it a chance.
And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm like, I've said a few times before, if somebody handed me a bucket of money, and said, make Star Trek, is this what I would have made? No. Did I still enjoy it? Yeah. Sure. Are there things that I liked and things that I didn't like? Yeah, yes to both of those. Will I watch it? Of course. Still. I mean, it could have been terrible. I mean, seriously. I mean,
and it was definitely not terrible.
No. I mean, these guys are really trying, I think, and they're trying to put out a good product. And I, from the little bit, and I hate keep referencing that silly After Trek show, but they did actually, you guys should all watch it because there's a couple little references, and I got the impression that this little war / Klingon arc thing is really just this season.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, good.
I got that impression that
Well, it
that
would have to be because there's already stuff in the lore about how.
Yeah, they had war.
You know,
it's not going to go on forever. Something's going to get settled because one of the producer guys or whatever writer guys I think he was that was on the show says something like reflecting the current times and they're going to have to decide how to handle this. Do they just fight it out? Do they come to a compromise, between the Klingons and the Federation, or what happens? So
maybe that's where the hope factors in, in the end, in the conclusion, because we need that in reality.
Well, obviously,
we have to end up with a Klingon neutral zone, right? At some point,
because Klingons and Federation are still around. So you can only do so much in twisting canon, and you can't go too far with rewriting that whole thing, even if it was whichever JJ verse or normal Prime universe it is in, both of them still have to be around. So anybody else have any last little bits that they wanted to throw in, that they didn't like or whatever? I like the uniforms. I kind of like
cool. It's gonna be very hard to cosplay.
Exactly.
It is a little.
Yeah.
It is a little that whole stuff on the sides is kind of.
You know what I noticed about that costuming note is that it looks good in pictures. It looks better standing still than it does while they're moving. That's my weird opinion.
Yeah. I do like that they finally have things they put on when they go to a planet or to a hostile place that's armored a little bit.
Quite right on the sides.
That's fine.
The fabric is different on the sides, and I noticed a couple times where when you got a side shot of somebody, it doesn't fold like normal clothing.
Again, it looks perfect if you place it and take a photo of it. But
and it looks good more from the front or just a slight angle than it does side. Completely from the side, it looks like they're wearing almost a spacesuit.
I wouldn't be surprised if they update the uniforms every season, because remember the scant skirts the men wore in the first season of Star Trek. We never saw those again.
Every series except Voyager, because they couldn't. They updated the uniforms.
Tweak them a little bit, and they've been throwing this out there of this idea that they are going to, if the show goes on and continues and so forth. They said that they're going to try to make it fuse or segue more into the way TOS was. So maybe they will start to look, have more just the 3 color type uniforms or
if they can do what they did in Rogue One, that I thought Rogue One did a good job doing that
of making it look like.
I felt like there was a segue there where it felt like a modern movie, but then when they went onto the Corvette, you still felt like you were there.
I think that the challenge with that is that Star Wars didn't look 70s.
Yeah, it's always timeless.
Whereas Star Trek did look 60s TOS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
To a degree. And I mean, one was a movie, one was a movie, and one was TV show. And
it's been said before, but the whole reason that the original series is so colorful was that's when color TV started.
Color TV.
So the whole point of that was not now with these colors with a million jillion little pixels and everything that can show you every hue. They don't want to you don't need a primary red in your face and a primary yellow whatever.
No.
And that's actually one of
versions of that without overwhelming the
well, if they do it in the JJ movies, it works.
Yeah, it works in the JJ movies. I like that. I agree.
You mute the colors a little more, but they're the same. But two last little points. The first one being that I wanted to confirm this is 10 years before TOS.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
So 10 years before TOS to me means that Spock is in Starfleet, more likely than not.
Yes.
Kirk is also more likely than not in Starfleet. And and the Enterprise is around under probably Pike.
Yep.
Or Captain April.
Or Captain April.
Yes,
yeah.
I brought
Pike because
love Captain
I would love for number 1 to make an appearance.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And then the other thing is, I think outside of obviously Rick and Amy and maybe Jen and Angela, last time Star Trek was on TV, none of us were friends.
Hey,
that's true. I really enjoyed
I thought you were saying none of us were alive.
No. I was just going to say, I really enjoyed experiencing this with all of you guys on Messenger last night.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That was fun.
We'll have to do that again as the weeks go on. That was fun.
That's fine with me. Yes.
One last thing I was going to say too is that watching the second episode with the All Access thing, even though I bought the low with the commercials, not nearly as many commercials as regular primetime.
No, it's like YouTube.
A manageable amount.
Fran actually said, if you're ever watching it on TV again, I'm not watching it with you. This is too painful.
Yeah, it's like you almost, if you saw that comparison, you'd almost go, oh, please put it on CBS All Access. I'm fine with that because the primetime regular
it would be
network.
your choice.
No, it was just the, and I've watched things like on Hulu and other stuff that has whatever they call it, limited
commercial interruption.
That's a livable amount. It's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not like it's a big difference between that and network. Network is just like
it was literally 10 minutes of show and then 5 minutes of commercials. Like it was horrible.
Yeah. So that's one little plus. I thought. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily need the no commercial CBS All Access.
Also, we don't have to worry about the football games.
Yeah, that's true.
Not anymore. At least now they're gonna come out. Like that was awful. When I was like, oh no, I'm in Canada. They're not gonna preempt the start time
go
here.
Too long. It was only an extra 25 minutes or something. But that would have been.
And then I'm sitting here on the West Coast, sitting here going, is it going to get in the feed here, or what's going to happen? You guys are.
You have to wait 3 hours.
I'm like, what? No, I actually got it, but it was about 45 minutes later than they said it would be.
Well, yeah, and they started to advertise like the first commercial break on the network. The episode 1, they started to advertise, hey, go to CBS All Access and you can watch episode 2 right now. And I'm like, I haven't even seen the first episode. Why are you advertising?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny that they were already.
And I got confused because we had football on CTV beforehand, but it ended. Whatever game was on that we were following, and yet it was NFL. So, whatever we were watching. I always
joke with sports people and sports fans and say, aren't there like 1 million sports cable channels? Why is it still on a network, like television?
Because the big game.
Money.
It's the big
I know. It's all about the money.
If stupid is ever happening, the reason is money or lawyers.
Money or lawyers. Hey, that's probably true.
Yep.
It's true. This was great. We'll have to do this again. Maybe they're only going to do 8 episodes, I believe. Then there's going to be about a 1 month break, roughly.
Right, it's sort of off for the holidays. Up in January.
It's going to get us to like
2.0.
End of November, whatever that'll be. I think it'll be about the end of November, and then it'll be off for the holidays, sorta? And then it comes back in January for the last 7 episodes. So maybe after the first 8, we could jump on Skype, talk about that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to know if they have a real distinct break at that point in the story, or if
like
it just
a mid-season finale sort of a thing.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Okay, Rico, I'm going to put out a prediction.
They're all going to die, right?
At the end of this entire story arc, they're going to end the Federation Klingon War at Organia.
Oh.
Okay.
We need the Organian peace treaty.
You think so?
I think so. If they really did it, they could probably figure out how to make that work so that the arc ends with the Organian peace treaty, because that's how we got to peace with the Klingons. It wasn't a diplomacy thing.
They got forced into it.
Exactly.
I think they're going to have a tenuous kind of peace, in the meantime for the remainder of. Well, we're still 10 years away from that. Roughly.
Right, because in TOS it was sort of like Cold War-ish with the Klingons.
Season.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, everyone. Thanks. I will talk to you guys all again soon. It was great. And hey, Star Trek's back.
Yay!
So
more episodes, please.
Yes, exactly. I'm looking forward to next week and another whatever amount of money they're spending each week on this thing. So
spend it all. It's all good.
If it's like costing them like Game of Thrones and millions of dollars, they can have my little $5.99. So
that's fine.
I bought like one of the buttons or clips on somebody's below deck uniform is what I figure I paid for it. Man. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Take
See you
care.
later.
Bye.
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 I really enjoyed that talk.
Oh, I did too. This is so stupid, but like I was looking through the reason I keep mentioning it is because I was looking through like the chat before I chimed in, like the very first day. Somebody put on there, we need Angela and Jen. Where's Angela and Jen?
Yeah, that was Rick Pete.
And I was like, oh, that's so nice.
I think it was Rick Piggy. It may have,
I think you're right.
been Joe.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
One of them, but no one said no. I mean, they all were just like, we're just part of the gang now.
We've always been a part of the gang.
I know.
don't think
Well, I know we have.
A lot of our listeners don't really know the relationship that we have with the Treks In SciFi podcast.
Yeah.
We have been buddies since like our inception back in 2007 and before that, because we were listeners of Rico's. Like in 2006 we were listening to his show when it started, and we became members of his forum. So all the people on that talk were members of his forum, and we got to know all of them, and over the years we've become so close with people we haven't
And it's
even
just
met.
cool because it's like such a great group of people that aren't jerks to each other, and you can just be a fan, and sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree, and not just about Star Trek. Of course, Star Trek is where most of us started, being friends, but about a bunch of other stuff. It's just been a really cool experience over the past 10 years, really. And that's very cool.
Yeah, and I encourage you, if you haven't tried Treks In SciFi,
oh yeah,
please do. We don't share all of our episodes, just ones like this. But do check out Rico's episode. He's always got great things to talk about.
All right. So what's coming up for us?
We had this grand idea to do a little series of 3 episodes to release all at one time on Battlestar Galactica, the 3 2-part episodes.
Yes.
That are the
miniseries and the 2-parters. Yep.
Yeah, it was the miniseries and Exodus. And what was the one? There's one that has to do with an election, which we thought was very pertinent.
And it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yes.
Watch
the parallels are crazy.
And it is so crazy.
So this was Angela's idea because the Sci-Fi Channel is doing a
re-release, basically, of BSG.
And if you haven't been with us very long, way back when we first started, we would do TV segments on Battlestar Galactica they were being released. And so we're revisiting them for the first time, these few episodes. And we just love them even more now, don't we?
Oh, yeah. But it's very stressful because we watched them, both of us watched them in a day. And it was really hard.
It's hard.
It's really, it's kind of dark. It's very serious. It's good. It's so good, but it's very serious.
But if you don't have the Sci-Fi Channel, they are available on iTunes and on Amazon. And Angela, you bought episodes or you rented them for $3, right?
I did. I rented them.
We will put in the show notes which episodes we're covering so you can watch them ahead of time. And iTunes also has a director's cut, like Ron Moore's special package of episodes that he loves, and all of them are in this special package.
Yep.
Except for the miniseries. You have to get that separate, but it's only $9.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth it.
It is. It's so worth it. Do that. That's coming up very soon. Next month, October.
And then also in November.
Yeah, November 11th. No, that's Renfest.
That's Renfest.
We're doing that. The Texas Renaissance Festival. We'll be there too.
Yes.
So Austin Comic-Con is the 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Yep.
And we will have a booth there. And
my boyfriend will also be there.
Tell him who our boyfriend is.
It's our boyfriend.
Most of you know.
It's Aquaman.
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Who was also on Stargate, by the way, Stargate Atlantis, and he was awesome. So
he has his own show on Netflix too, which is really good.
Oh yes, we started watching that, but that's also kind of dark.
It is.
It is. It's real
but he's
rough.
Really good.
It's very.
He's very convincing.
It's like the updated version of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. It's like if Dr. Quinn had a gritty reboot, it would be that show. Don't you think?
Yes. I knew it reminded me of something. Thank you for putting that in my head forever now. Every time I watch it, I'm going to think of Dr. Quinn.
You know I'm right.
You are. So anyway, we wanted to let you know ahead of time that we're going to be at Austin Comic-Con. We have friends flying from out of state to come to this.
That's right.
To hang out with us, listeners and friends. And it's become kind of our meetup, right?
And also Sith Jen will be there.
Yes, Sith Jen, who's been in many of our videos and podcast episodes. We call her Sith Jen because she's a little darker than me.
And her name's Jen, and we need to have a way to differentiate.
We have to have a descriptor.
That's true.
Who else is going to be there other than Jason Momoa? Kate Beckinsale.
Oh, yeah.
Val Kilmer, Gene Simmons, Summer Glau, Jules State.
Yeah.
Sean Maurer, Felicia Day, Michael Rooker, Austin Emilio. Oh, one of my favorite Supermen is going to be there, Angela.
Which one? Dean Cain?
Dean Cain, Be Still My Heart. I may have to meet him.
We should.
Of course, Lou Ferrigno, who's at
and
every
so
Comic-Con.
is the green Power Ranger.
Dude. Jason David Frank.
Yes, he's at like all of them too.
And Emma, you were really excited about this.
Oh, I love Emma Caulfield. I love her. I love her.
She was the demon, right, in Buffy?
Yeah, she was the vengeance demon who then lost her powers and became Xander's girlfriend.
Yes. And then, of course, like Angela said, lots of great artists. It's going to be fun. We hope you just come out and visit with us. Even if you have to, just hang with us. And Austin Comic Con's a really good convention because it's not super crowded like Dragon Con or San Diego Comic Con. According to the people we know who've been to those places, like Rico's been to lots of very busy ones, and he's like, this one's very laid back, and I enjoy it.
I like it, too, because it's like Austin's a cool place. Because not just the convention, but like everywhere around the convention, it's, cool downtown area, and Austin's just a neat place to
hang. A hip place to hang. Yes. So, be thinking about that.
Yeah. We hope to see you guys there.
So thank you for listening to this episode. If you have any comments on Star Trek Discovery or any other episode we've covered in our, how many years? Over a decade of podcasting.
Gosh. Yeah.
Do send us an email. You can do that by emailing us through our website at anomalypodcast.com. You can find all of our contact info and our social media info there, as well as a slew of episodes and archived episodes and blog posts and information about us. Because you know what? People are always curious about what the podcasters they're listening to look like.
Yep.
We've got a lot of pictures there.
We're there.
So anyway, check it out. Thanks for listening. I'm Jen.
And I'm Angela, and you've been listening to the Anomaly Podcast, where female and fandom converge. And boom.
Boom.
We did it.